Hey everybody, welcome back to Running Denver TV. I'm here with my really good friend, Terry Chiplin. Terry, it's so great to have you here. Finally, we get you on the show.
Very pleased to be here.
So excited, and one of the things is that I know I've got this kind of funky accent going, but yours is much more distinguished than mine. So obviously, I know you're originally from England. What brought you to the United States, and specifically Colorado?
Great question, Lonnie. Where it all started was we had a meeting with the Queen back in England, and she said, we need to send somebody over from England to Colorado to sort you guys out. So that's my job here. No, seriously, my wife and I and our family had a trip here in 1998, and we drove into Colorado through Four Corners, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. And we fell in love with the state. We discovered Denver, and we decided that at some point in the future, that when the time was right, we would come back and live here. And so we came back in 2006 and bought a house in Estes Park, and we've been here ever since, and very happy to be here.
Well, and not just, it's awesome that Colorado has you, and of course it's not just all about you just moving here is what today's segment is about. It's more about that you are really ingrained into the running community, and you're a coach and trainer and motivator and doing all kinds of stuff, and you've called yourself an athletic experience facilitator. Tell us what that means.
I wish I knew. No, seriously, it's, I think we came here with a dream, and part of what we want to do is to bring back the kind of fun and joy and connection with the natural side of running. So I think so much of running has been about hard work and training and focus and all those kind of things, which are really important. But at the same time, I think there's also a part of running that we've all been kids. And I grew up as a child, and I couldn't wait to run. First thing I wanted to do was run. Whenever I got to a place, it was like here. It's like I still feel that same pull. There's like give me grass and open spaces, and I just want to run. Give me trees and forests, I just want to run. And so we want to provide a different kind of athletic experience for people and connect them with their inner runner.
So one of the great things that we're going to be talking a little bit about is training at altitude, and you're active at altitude and some of the camps you host, which are phenomenal. But your jacket is reminding me of something very important that's been around for 3 years now, and that's the U.S. Trail Running Conference that you started. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. That was a really interesting journey. I mean, when we arrived here from England, then I was a road runner, not a trail runner. I had done cross country back in England, but had never really run trails that much. And when we arrived in Colorado and started running trails, that it was like, why did I not know about this before? Why did I have to wait so long? But that's the way it is. And so fell in love with trail running, became really passionate about it, still am passionate about it. I connected with the American Trail Running Association, working with Nancy Hobbs and Adam Chase, and we just formed a really close relationship. And in conversation with Nancy, she was saying that she thought trail running was at the point where it really deserved its own conference, a standalone conference. It was no longer the poor sister of road running. And so we started some plans, and working with the Estes Park Medical Center, we put on the first trail running conference in the USA in 2013. We've just had the third conference here in Estes Park, actually last 2 weekends ago, and very successful, very pleased with the progress we've made. We now have 3.5 days dedicated to trail runners, 1.5 days specifically for trail race directors, and then 2 days for trail runners, and contains a lot of informative workshops, sessions, speaker panels, expo, demos, all kinds of fun stuff, but it's the only event of its kind in this country that is dedicated to trail running, and it provides an opportunity for trail runners and race directors to network, share experiences, and grow this exciting sport.
Which is actually, I think it's very timely for the conference and everything that you are doing along with Nancy Hobbs and Adam Chase as well. One of the things that maybe you can elaborate a little bit on too is that, whereas we have road running, we have roads, we have tons of space. And running in the trails is beautiful, but it's for event directors especially, and for athletes, it can be difficult to find a place to go. It can be difficult because I know some cities that have really great extensive trail systems, or some are very welcoming, but there's also they get afraid about damage to the trail. So how are you guys playing, how are you trying to be a liaison between those things to obviously help grow it, because we want people on the trails, but we need to be obviously respectful of the trails and make sure that we don't damage them as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of kind of politics, unfortunately, that do come into it. Are you guys playing a role in that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's been really important. Last year we had the first workshop specifically for trail race directors, and so it was the first time that a group of trail race directors had ever been able to get together and meet. And so it was really interesting to hear the difference between different states, different areas in terms of permitting, trail access, all of those political land management relationships. And so it's been really important, I think, to share those ideas, what people have found has been successful, what people have found difficult and challenging, and then working together to come up with a structure and a format which we can then use on a wider basis. So there's lots of great information which is going to come out of specifically the last trail running conference, which is going to help trail race directors across the country. And one of those is an important relationship with other trail users too. So, for example, we've partnered with the International Mountain Bicycling Association.
Wow.
They're a large organization, big trail users, big on trail maintenance, trail advocacy and sustainability. And so to work and partner with them, and then we can form a larger voice and have a bigger voice for us as trail users, for trail runners as well.
That's fantastic. And so that kind of leads me into some of the training stuff that you do as well. So tell us a little bit more about Active at Altitude, and probably one of the things too is we live in Colorado, and of course you're up at Estes Park, so you're sitting at around 8,000 feet.
Yeah.
We're at a mile high, a little above 5,000 feet, and people love to come. Obviously it's huge for Olympians training here and stuff like that, so there's a lot of advantages, but people come here and it can be tough on them. So tell us more about Active at Altitude.
Sure. Yeah, the idea, the concept behind Active at Altitude was that we saw this from back in England, and we're looking at Boulder and Colorado and Denver, and we're thinking, okay, elite athletes have been coming out here for quite some time and training at altitude, and they get the benefit, physiologically, but also psychologically as well. It's wonderful to run in clean, clear air, and they have the kind of climate that we do. But then the other aspect that we wanted to provide was kind of altitude training for the masses. And so anybody benefits from training at altitude. It doesn't matter how fast you are, how slow you are, everybody benefits. So we wanted to provide something that was going to be altitude training for recreational athletes as well as elite athletes. And everybody benefits. The same benefits happen no matter what pace you run at. So we set up Active at Altitude and the camps that we have, and we've had athletes come literally from all over the world. We've had athletes come and train with us from Japan, from Australia, from New Zealand, all across Europe, from South America, and across the States as well.
That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about specifics, because obviously, and you can find out more, they can go to, if they want to find out more about Active at Altitude, how would they find that?
So that's at www.activeataltitude.com.
Great, and of course we'll have that information for you as well at Running Denver TV. And now let's talk about more specifics, because obviously you are the experience facilitator, the athletic experience facilitator, aka coach. But for our viewers out there who might be just getting into running or haven't really done a lot at altitude, or they might feel discouraged, especially if they came from someplace else and they're running and it's a lot harder. What training advice do you have actually for anybody for training? What would you tell our viewers?
Okay, first thing is really interesting, the word you used. It's a lot harder here. Yeah, that the terminology we use sets up a preconception of what it's going to be like. Yeah? So everybody talks about running at altitude being hard or tough or challenging, and running anywhere can be hard and tough and challenging. Yeah.
Absolutely. I suck at humidity, so.
Exactly. And there's always challenges for us at different different kinds. And one of the things that I've been pushing towards is changing the terminology we use about running at altitude. So I encourage people to think about running at altitude and talk about it being inspiring, motivating, fantastic, amazing, all of these things, because it is. And running is amazing, but running when you have the majestic Rocky Mountains in the backdrop and they're snow covered and you got the Colorado blue sky is just fantastic. Nothing like it.
Absolutely.
And so that's the first thing. So the terminology we use, I think, is really important. The second thing is that as runners, we tend to get kind of stuck into being focused on pace. And so anybody comes here, if they're running a 9-minute mile back at home, then when they start running, their body kind of wants them, they're used to running a 9-minute mile, so their body almost wants them to run a 9-minute mile again. Yeah? And of course, everybody runs slower at altitude. There is less oxygen available because of the partial pressure difference. So we can't run at the same pace. But yet, so many people fall into that trap, and I've been guilty of this as well. When we first come to altitude, we try and run at the same pace that we do at home, and then find it like, oh my God, I can't do this, and then get discouraged and so on. So my best advice is to forget about pace, listen to your body, listen to your breathing. So whatever breathing you do for a steady run at home, do the same breathing intensity. And that means the intensity will be the same, but your pace will be slower. And so that's what we do. A big part of what we do with the camps is to actually get people to listen to their bodies. Because so many people don't listen to their bodies and then get discouraged, get demotivated, get injured, all of the above. Whereas if we listen to our bodies, then we have a much better chance, one, of enjoying the experience, but two, being consistent as well in terms of actually running and training.
So it would be a little bit fair to say that, which makes complete sense, and I love the fact that you actually called me out on the fact of, you're using kind of like more of a negative term,
yeah,
and we need to change it into a positive term because there's really so much positive that comes from it, and think of it as more of exactly a positive training as opposed to being harder. It's actually, hey, my pace might be slower, but I'm getting so much greater benefit out of it.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
it's kind of like if you're in the weight room and you're doing those really big weights,
right.
You might be doing really strong. I can only get one set out, but that's going to make me stronger in the time. And after I finally get that one rep of 20 pounds up, then we'll be okay. Maybe not 20 pounds. I can maybe do 25, but but then we're going to be stronger for it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Especially for a runner, we're all legs. Upper body strength is not there.
Yeah.
So that's really fascinating to talk about that. And it almost sounds like a little bit too that it helps us going back to simplifying things. Right. We really are, in talking all this, you make me want to go up to Estes Park and hang out for a week right now and just get some downtime. But really, you're talking about listen to your breathing, basically get rid of the watch, right. Get rid of your Map My Run, get rid of your phone, and just go out there and run and enjoy your surroundings and stuff. I think we are probably too connected. Everything's about pace and everything's about hitting this time marker and everything's about hitting this type of stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of what you're saying is we can probably improve our running so much better if we kind of negate those things, right. Just listen to ourselves and go out and run and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not that technology doesn't have a place in our lives. It is useful sometimes to have like a benchmark training session where you can see, okay, how have I progressed in terms of my training? But it doesn't mean, as you say, that we need to be permanently connected. And then when we get permanently connected to technology, then we're not necessarily, as you say, listening to ourselves. We're not necessarily paying attention to what's going on around us. What beauty there is and what wildlife we connect with and what the air is feeling like on our face. It's all of these things can get left behind. But yeah, you make a really good point that I think it's so important that if we use positive terminology, if we think about things positively and use positive psychology, then our experience and our perceptions are so different. And it doesn't matter what we do. I mean, we're here talking about running, but that's that's an important part of our lives. But it's also true for our lives in general as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very, very true. Speaking of, so you were talking, I thought it was fascinating that you talk about like you ran, did cross country, and all of a sudden it's like I discovered trails where they've been all my whole life. And I know I grew up being a cyclist. I was a roadie. I'm still a roadie. I like the speed. I like going fast on the bike. But there is something for mountain biking. So I'm not as big of a mountain biker, but I know it's almost a little bit the same thing. Everyone that traditionally does a lot of road work and stuff, they haven't done a lot of trail work and stuff like that. But there really is something to that. What advice would you give somebody from starting who's going into trail? Because there is differences.
Right. There are differences. The biggest difference that I've found is watching road runners come to us and start to run trails, is that most road runners fall into the trap of having a really slow cadence. So their leg turnover is, they have long loping strides, as it were. And so their leg turnover is pretty slow. Now, one thing about trails is that it's not smooth concrete or smooth asphalt. You may have noticed, yeah.
A few times. A couple of rocks and a few branches and stuff like that here and there.
And so trails or nature or whoever it was that will sometimes put things in our way that we're not necessarily expecting. And so it's really important from a trail running perspective to be light and fast on our feet. So if we're spending a long time with our foot in contact with the ground, and especially landing with our foot ahead of our center of mass, so ahead of our body, then we're often in an unstable situation. If we put our foot on a rock and the rock moves, then we can be down pretty quickly. Yeah? Whereas if we're landing with our foot close or underneath our center of mass, then we're inherently more stable. And so the first thing that we tend to work on with trail runners is leg turnover. So we work on cadence, and we actually do some work with a metronome and beep, 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 which kind of gets on your nerves after a little while. But it's actually really useful because then it's wonderful because, the first run, often when we start off, then it's like everybody's kind of too slow. And then as we use the metronome and follow, especially if we have somebody lead the run who has good cadence, fast turnover, then what we encourage people to do is to just follow the leader. So it's then like everybody is tick, 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 yeah, following the same high cadence. And that's, I think, one of the most important things about trail running. The other aspect for me is about learning to play again. So it's like that difference between road biking and mountain biking too. So on a road bike, then it's like, when you're having to watch out for traffic, you might have a specific program or schedule that you're following. But then for mountain biking, then it's just go out and enjoy it. And the same is true with trail running. I think the difference between road running and trail running, that, there's so much more, we don't have to watch for traffic, hopefully.
Yeah.
If we do have to watch for traffic, then we have a problem.
Just as in Estes Park, you got to watch out for the elk, the occasional elk crossing.
Yeah, that's natural traffic.
Yeah.
So elk, deer, rabbits, the occasional eagle. But but there's an opportunity for us to play there. So I found myself at times, just doing a long sloping downhill, and instead of just running down the middle, then I'll run up the sides of the banks, and it's like it gives me a chance to get in touch with that child inside me again. That little boy that used to want to get out of a car and just run and have fun. And I think, and then the other part is about connection with nature. So it's just incredible. That I said this at the conference, and I'll share it with you guys again. That it's like I've done lots and lots of road miles back in England, and I've traveled through some beautiful parts of country, and some great scenery and all that kind of stuff. But here in Colorado, I've had several times where I've been out on a trail, and I take a corner, and all of a sudden it's like I have this view in front of me, and it's like I can't run. I have to stop. And tears start rolling down my face, and it's just like it just connects me with nature in a way that running in the city or running on roads can't do. There is chalk and cheese, as we say in England.
Right. That's wonderful. Well, Terry, thank you so much for being with us on the show today. I know all of our viewers are really excited to listen to everything you have to say, and I know hopefully a lot of them will be checking you out at activeataltitude.com, and then certainly the trail conference for the fourth annual one will be coming up in October.
It's going to be September the
September.
28th to October the 1st next year, with the Estes Trail Ascent trail run on October the 2nd.
Wonderful.
Yeah, really looking forward to a great event. I have one more thing I want to say.
Absolutely, please.
If I could.
Absolutely.
Which kind of links in with the positive side of things. So talking about that, so I don't know if in terms of editing it makes sense to shift things around. But I also wanted to share with you guys that next month we'll be introducing a phone app, a mobile phone app.
Very cool.
It's called Active Acuity, and it's all based around positive guided imagery. And it's basically audio sessions that you listen to on a daily basis, and each session has a specific target or focus. And the reason for the app is that we found working with athletes, especially in terms of mental preparation, is that as athletes, and like most human beings, we struggle with negative views of ourselves, with negative self-perceptions. And that impacts not only our training, but also our racing and performance and experiences too. And so Active Acuity is about getting people to think about not only themselves, but other people and their situations in a positive way. As I said, each session is 10 minutes or between 10 and 15 minutes, and it just provides a wonderful breath of fresh air. And we're working with three major athletes on this. Our good friends Melody Fairchild from Boulder, Sage Canaday from Boulder, and Joseph Gray from Colorado Springs. And each of these three athletes are contributing to the app as well. And it's going to be available next month, so look out for that, activeacuity.com.
Activeacuity.com, we like it. Well, we'll definitely, I know our viewers will hopefully better be downloading that app. That sounds fantastic. Terry, thank you so much again for being here, and that's wonderful, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the conference and checking out the new app, and of course getting some people hopefully training with you at Active at Altitude. Thanks, Terry.
Look forward to it. Thank you.